Welcome back to the Robots vs. Vampires podcast. I'm Adrian Smith, and I'm excited to jump into this cool news story.
I'm Julia Jones, and I'm ready to dive in.
So today we're looking at Veil of Dusk, and right off the bat, this story gives us Emily, our teen protagonist who just lost her parents
Oh.
and has to go live with these relatives. She's never met Victor and Sophia in a town called Duskhaven.
Sounds ominous already.
It does, right? You get that classic fish out of water vibe and the hidden world trope. But there's a twist.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So this isn't just your typical Gothic setting. Duskhaven also has robots like advanced tech, just casually mixed in.
Well, hold on. So I've got like brooding Gothic vibes with Victor and his cane and pet crow.
Yeah, and Sophia's all into incense and mysterious auras.
But then there are robots walking around too.
Exactly. That's like the author is playing with our expectations.
Totally messing with those classic tropes. It makes you think about how Emily's going to deal with all this.
Imagine being a teenager, grieving your parents, and then suddenly you're in this place with creepy relatives and futuristic robots.
Talk about sensory overload.
Right. It's like a double dose of culture shock.
Yeah.
It definitely adds to that fish out of water feeling.
Definitely.
And then there's that wham line moment where Emily stumbles upon her relative's big secret.
Oh, yeah, the vampire hunting thing.
They're not just eccentric. They're full-on vampire hunters.
What did you think about how the author revealed that?
I thought it was really well done. It's gradual. Emily overhears conversations, sees weird symbols, and then she actually sees them prepping for a hunt.
Right, with that captive vampire.
Exactly. It builds the tension, so we're uncovering the mystery right alongside Emily.
Totally keeps you hooked.
Then bam, the attack happens. Things get real intense.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about that scene?
Emily's reaction. I mean, here's this normal girl thrown into this crazy situation, and when Victor gets attacked, she doesn't even hesitate.
Grabs the nearest thing, a silver candlestick.
And fights back. It's like the surprising ferocity comes out of nowhere.
I know. It's like we see this inner strength in her, this potential she didn't even know she had.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if there's more to her than meets the eye.
Maybe some hidden abilities or something.
Right. And then Sophia joins the fight, but instead of using the usual vampire hunting gear, she pulls out this wicked dagger.
Interesting. Makes you question their methods a bit. Are they as straightforward as they seem?
And then the biggest twist of all, Victor gets wounded, turns to Emily, and what do we see? Fangs.
The vampire hunter is a vampire himself. What?
I know, right? Blew my mind.
Totally changes everything. We have to rethink everything we thought we knew about Victor, about good and evil, even about what a hunter really is.
Makes you think back to when Emily fought back instinctively. Was that just adrenaline? Or is it something more? Something connected to Victor being a vampire?
Ooh, good point. So many questions.
And that's just part one. The story ends with Emily waking up the next morning, sunlight streaming in through the boarded-up windows. It's this stark contrast between the normal daylight and the crazy stuff that happened the night before.
Yeah. It's like she's caught between two worlds trying to make sense of it all.
And then Sophia drops this line. "You are one of us now, child, sworn to the veil between worlds." Chills.
Seriously, what does that even mean? Sworn to the veil. What's Emily's role in all this? The author leaves us hanging.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. Make sure to come back for part 2 where we'll unpack Emily's journey and see what happens next.
Okay, so last time we left Emily with this huge bombshell. She's part of this vampire hunting family, and her uncle is a vampire. Talk about a family secret.
It's like all those coming-of-age issues, but with a supernatural twist. She's dealing with normal teenage stuff and this massive revelation about the world.
Absolutely. And the author really captures how Emily feels the impact of this, like that scene where she's staring at the scar she got from the vampire attack.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It's not just a physical scar. It's like a mark of this hidden world she's been pulled into.
Exactly. It represents the trauma and the fact that she's now part of something bigger. And while she's trying to process all this, she finds herself in the mansion's library.
Naturally, like she's searching for answers some way to make sense of everything.
Yeah, and she stumbles upon her family's journals, these records of vampire hunters going back generations.
Classic hero's journey, right? She's uncovering her past, tracing her lineage back to this ancient order.
Totally. And through these journals, she learns about the veil, this barrier between the human world and the vampire world.
So it's not just about killing vampires, it's about maintaining this balance, keeping the two worlds separate.
Right, and that realization is what makes Emily decide to embrace her destiny. She sees how important it is to continue her family's legacy.
It's a real turning point. She goes from feeling helpless to taking charge, becoming a protector.
And the author shows us her training. She's learning to fight, use weapons, decipher ancient texts. It's like a superhero origin story.
But she's not just learning physical skills, right? She's developing some special abilities, too.
Yeah, it seems like she's tapping into something connected to the veil. She can sense vampires even manipulate the boundaries between worlds.
Yeah. Wow, so she's like a bridge between the two worlds, someone who understands both sides.
Exactly. But of course, every hero needs a challenge, and that's where the antagonist comes in the super powerful vampire lord who wants to destroy the veil and unleash chaos.
So Emily has to deal with her own inner struggles, master her powers, and then face this ultimate evil who wants to destroy everything she's trying to protect.
Classic good versus evil, but with a lot of depth and twist, which keeps us on the edge of our seats, wondering if she can actually win.
Totally. And just when we think we know how it's all going to go down, the author throws in another curveball.
Oh, yeah. As Emily's preparing for the final showdown, she discovers something shocking about her own past, a connection to the vampire world that changes everything.
Okay, so we left off with this huge cliffhanger. Emily finding out she's connected to the vampire world somehow. What was the deal with that?
Well, you know how Sophia kept mentioning that veil between worlds? Emily digs deeper into her family history and discovers that the first protector of the veil was actually a vampire.
Wait, a vampire protecting humans? That doesn't seem right.
I know, right? You'd think they'd be all about Team Vampire. But the story takes this really interesting turn. Turns out this ancient vampire fell in love with a human.
Ah, forbidden romance.
Exactly. And to protect her and humanity, he teamed up with some powerful humans. They created the veil, and the whole vampire hunter tradition started.
Wow, so it's like a love story that changed the world. It adds
Yeah.
a whole new layer to the conflict. It's not just good versus evil anymore. It's about love and sacrifice and finding a way for these two worlds to coexist.
And get this, the vampire who started it all, the one who chose love over his own kind, he's Emily's ancestor.
You're kidding.
Hmm.
So she's not just descended from vampire hunters. She's related to the vampire who created the whole system. That's insane.
Right.
It changes everything.
It does. Now it's not just about duty, it's about Emily reconciling these two sides of her family history, figuring out where she belongs in all of this.
And it explains her powers, right? It's not random. It's this inherited connection to the veil passed down through generations.
Exactly. It's like she was destined for this role. But let's not forget about that vampire lord who's still out there trying to destroy the veil.
Yeah.
How does Emily use what she's learned to stop him?
Well, it seems like this final battle is more than just fighting. It's about ideas. It's about what the veil represents. Emily realizes that she can't just overpower him. She has to use her connection to the veil in a smarter way.
Yeah, she has to protect the balance.
And in this epic showdown, she doesn't just attack, she actually appeals to the vampire lord's humanity. She reminds him of the love that started it all, the sacrifice that made their world possible.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is, and it works. The story ends with this beautiful act of redemption. Emily's words and actions don't just defeat the villain, they help him see that he was wrong, and that the veil is important.
So everyone wins. It's a victory for both sides.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even in the darkest situations, there's always hope for understanding and peace.
It's a great message. And the story leaves us wondering, what's next for Emily? Will she keep protecting the veil? Will she try to bring humans and vampires closer together? There's so many possibilities.
It shows how even fantastical stories can teach us about ourselves, about the choices we make, and the power of love to overcome anything.
Absolutely. So if you enjoyed this crazy tale of vampires and hidden worlds, be sure to check out the full story of Veil of Dusk. And remember, sometimes the most unbelievable stories can teach us the most important lessons.
And that's what the Robots vs. Vampires podcast is all about. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of sci-fi and fantasy.